Hey, welcome to
Hey,
another Contentful stream. We've got today, March 16th, we're looking at the intro to the Contentful app framework. And here with me, I've got Felix from the extensibility team who works directly on the app framework. How's it going, Felix?
hey, David, everything good here? Great to be on the stream for the first time, and yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm pretty excited. I think so. Today, we've actually revamped the tutorial that comes along with the app framework. So this is usually the thing that people are diving into first. So it's pretty exciting, and the tutorial looks very in-depth. We're going to be working through it today. We're going to be live coding it, and I think if we have time at the end, we're probably going to be adding some additional functionality on there. What do you think?
Yeah, it will be great.
Cool.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. So before we begin, let's just do a little bit of housekeeping here. As always, we've got our code of conduct. We want to have a welcoming and inviting community. So, please feel free to go and look at that. And if you feel like anything's going wrong, definitely let us know. We're always there to make sure things are going right. We want to, have a welcoming environment. We also have the developer portal, which we'll be looking at today. The developer portal holds pretty much all of our content, tutorials, guides, documentation. And as well as that, we have this vibrant Slack community, which, we're both a part of. And what we do on there is we interact with the community. There's a lot of people that are sharing their ideas. They're asking questions. People are helping each other. It's a really great place. It's a kind of a live resource, somewhere you can go and learn and also see what other people are working on. Some of this stuff is super interesting. We also offer a GraphQL course, which that pertains to Contentful, and you can go learn about that as well. And as always, if you're building cool stuff or if you've got something to show off and you think it's helpful for the community and for people that use Contentful, we always reward that with a little bit of swag too. So that's really cool. And then, additionally today we actually have, we're going to be launching two new things called Launch and Compose. These are features inside of Contentful. We're not going to speak too much about them here on the stream, but if you're really interested, there is a live LinkedIn stream going on today, and you can find that at ctfl.io/lclive. And of course, you can read more about it on our blog as well. So yeah, Felix, let's take a look at what we're supposed to be doing today. So first of all, that developer portal that I talked about, contentful.com/developers. On here, we've got a brand new app framework tutorial. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to head into the documentation here, go to our extensibility tab, and let's go app framework and building your first app. Now, I've built many apps, so I'm a little bit biased, but
Yeah,
we're going to follow this tutorial. Yeah, so I mean, hopefully what I'm hoping is, I looked at this is a very in-depth tutorial, and I hope it explains a lot. But what I think is, if we run through it live, it's kind of like a cool live coding session. People can follow along and hopefully get a lot of use out of all of this stuff. So what are we building today, Felix? What is this thing?
Yeah, today, we are building a blog post metrics app. So as we already see here in the little GIF, it's basically a little app that provides some additional data for your blog post. As you can see in the top, in the right sidebar, we can add additional information such as word count or even the reading time. So you can maybe get a better feeling for your blog post, how long it will take for people to read, and get a sort of feeling how many words you have written. And also as you can see, it also kind of live updates as you type. So you get this real-time information baked into the editorial experience.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So this is not functionality that comes out of the box with Contentful, but this is built using the app framework, and
exactly.
I mean, it looks it looks like you're using Forma 36 here to create all the components as well. So for those people that aren't familiar, Forma 36 is our design library, and it's the thing that, as you use Contentful, it's all of our UI basically.
It's everywhere basically, yeah.
Yeah, this is all Forma 36. Yeah. So the buttons, the tables, the tabs, the layout. So we offer this for free. It's open source. You can use this to build your apps really quickly. And I think one cool thing about that is, when you build your app using it, it looks and feels like Contentful. So the user experience is pretty seamless. And I know people that kind of study that methodology. It's always nice to not have too many jarring UI elements going on. It just kind of blocks people that are using your app from understanding what's going on. Okay, so let's look at the prerequisites here. I'll need the latest version of long-term service of Node. So I've already got that on my machine. I'm not going to really worry about that. I should be comfortable using my computer's command line. Okay, I think that's a check mark there. I will need to be able to read and write HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, that's a bit of an ask. You will also be familiar with installing Node Package Manager. So that comes with Node. And I will need a free Contentful account and space. And I've already done that. I've signed up for that.
Perfect. So the perfect conditions, I would say.
Yes, the perfect conditions. And I think now we can, so what should we be expecting? We can create an app, we can configure our app, we can install our app, and we can create content types and things like that. Okay. So again, the tools we're using, so we're going to be using React. We're going to be using the App SDK. So the App SDK, that's something that I've talked about in the past. This is like for people that are familiar with Contentful. This is the UI SDK. This is that SDK that goes into either the UI extensions or the apps. It's just now the App SDK, but it's the same old SDK that we've always been working with.
Exactly. It's kind of the bridge between the Contentful web app and the app we are going to build, basically.
Right. Okay. And I think we'll see that. I'm going to be using TypeScript. So what's cool is, the editor will show us some more detailed information about these functions. Forma 36 I just talked about, but again, just to reiterate here. So Forma 36 is our design library, and the Forma 36 documentation, f36.contentful.com. It shows all of the ways you can use Forma 36, and it also comes with a storybook feature, which we might get into in a little bit. It's just a way to kind of play around with the components in isolation. It's a cool way to test things. All right, so I have to say I cheated a little bit. I did already set up a content model. We'll walk through it, but I just didn't want to spend too much time clicking through all these buttons.
It's the boring part, right?
It's a bit of the setup. So if you're doing this basically from scratch, again, this tutorial is super in-depth. You basically just follow all these steps and you'll get there. But what I've got is I do have a blog post content type. And you actually look at this. You've already even noted if you already have the blog post content type, we should at least maybe rename it or something like this if we're using a demo space. So actually, let's just go check out my content model here. And let's see, I've got the blog post content type. Let's click into this. So I've got a short text for a title, I've got a body for a rich text, and I've got this ingredients field, which I was doing for another demo. Let me actually go ahead and just disable this and delete it because we don't need it anymore. And I assume I might actually have to change a few things in this blog post anyways.
Yeah, I think the body should be a long text, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm just going to follow along here.
We can just follow along the steps, and then we should get there.
All right, cool. Yeah, like you just said. So I need two types of fields. So I need a title field, which is a text, and a long text field as well. So let me do that. Let me get rid of this as well. No need for these things anymore. So I've got the short text title field, and I'll just refresh just to make sure it's all brand new. All right, let's add a new field. So what you're saying is we want this to be called, let's see here. We've got a body, and that's going to be long text. So text, we'll call this body. And we're going to do long text. And based off of this, we'll just click save, it looks like. Make sure your long text has a field ID called body. Sure thing. I think that should work. Boom. All right. So yeah, just to recap, we've created a content type called blog post. It's got two fields. There's a title field, which is a short text field, and a body field, which is a long text field. Pretty straightforward so far. And now comes the fun part, which is we've got this great tool called Create Contentful App. And So it's create React app under the hood, and we've added.
It is exactly, it is create React under the hood, so it uses create React apps. So we want to keep the tooling familiar, because I think a lot of people who are also building and using React are also using create React app to create new applications. But yeah, create Contentful app basically gives us a nice scaffold of an app, so we can play around. We have some components predefined, and we can jump right to the action and basically start building without doing all the hassle of setting up the boilerplate code, basically.
I mean, that sounds great. I've run this before on stream, which was kind of a mistake because it does take like about a minute or two to create everything.
Yeah, it does take some time. Yeah.
Yeah, so I did run this before our stream today just to kind of save some time. So I'm going to, let's just assume that I ran this command because I did. And I'm actually going to, in my terminal here, I'm going to cd into my app. I didn't call it my first app, so this is the name that we give the directory. I just called it. I think, what did I call it? Let's take a look. I called it the app tutorial.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter really what you name your app. I mean, it's your decision how you call the folder. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so that makes sense. And if I just take a quick look at the directory structure, it looks like it's built everything out for me there. And the instructions are also saying, let me run start, because this will start running the dev server. And I think this is going to go on to localhost 3000 here.
Yep. Exactly. We'll spin up basically an app on localhost 3000.
Cool. Yeah. So once this is up and running, looks like it's about to start. So while this is going, let's see, what else do we need to do? So my app is going to run on localhost 3000. And so now I need to embed my app into the Contentful web app.
Exactly. So basically what this means, I mean, we already talked about the app SDK, and we kind of need to establish the bridge between the Contentful web app and our app we're going to build. So now we need basically to tell Contentful, okay, now we want to build an app and we are going to host this app at this location. So Contentful knows, okay, I'm expecting an app on this and this location and on this path. So basically we can follow these steps here.
Okay. Yeah. So, and to clarify what the app is, right, I'm running an app locally on a server. So if I hit localhost 3000, there's going to be like an HTML page that gets served up with some JavaScript. And when we create this thing called an app definition, what we're doing is we're kind of outlining like where this app lives, right? What the URL is, what that name of the app is. And ultimately, Contentful runs this in an iframe. So the iframe is somewhere inside of Contentful. It's looking at for your app. So you've got like a mini website, a mini single page application running inside of Contentful. And that's what an app really is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. So let me just quickly, okay, so it looks like it's running on localhost 3000 like our tutorial says it should. So I'm going to go back into my Contentful organization here, and the instructions say click on my organization settings, go to the organization settings here. Once I'm here in the organization settings, I need to click on apps up in the top bar. And again, in order to be able to get to this spot, right, I need to be an admin or a developer inside of the org.
Yep.
So that is important. I know, a lot of people, they just create like a sample or a free space, free Contentful organization. So you can just spin that up for free. You can get all of this stuff. You basically will become an admin of a Contentful org. So you can start building apps. This is kind of like a sandbox environment in that sense. For me, I've been using this org to build a bunch of apps. So we've kind of got a bunch of apps going on here. So let me actually, let me delete one of these things because I actually don't necessarily need
you hit the
these.
limit, right?
I've hit the limit. I've been developing a little bit too much. So let me delete a previous app that I had, and we'll go ahead and create a brand new app here. So what the tutorial is saying is go and click this, blue button, create app. If you've already got some app definitions, it's going to be up here. But the tutorial does show that if you don't, if you watch this GIF real quick, you get a different kind of page, but it's all the same. There's just a blue button that says create an app. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm presented with a create app screen. Let's see, blog post metrics is going to be the name of my app. I'm going to be a little lazy here and just copy and paste that in. So blog post metrics, and our app is running on localhost 3000. Now again, That's our developer environment. If you
Exactly.
are done building the app, right, you go and you host it somewhere. So this app URL will change that, or you can just make a new app definition with the production version.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. And it looks like there's a bunch of other things we need to do as well. So we need to specify the app locations. So app locations is where the app actually shows up.
Exactly. So I think maybe we can talk a little bit about locations if we want to. So this is actually an important concept when you want to build an app, because as you know, apps, they can render in different locations. So as we've seen in the tutorial right now, the app we are going to build is rendering exactly, if you maybe scroll up.
Yeah, let me go up to the top here. So again,
exactly. So we can see we have this editorial experience, for example. We have here the editor, and on the right, we have the sidebar.
Right.
And
so
for this tutorial, exactly, this is the whole right part here. You can see this is basically the sidebar, and we can customize it also as we like. And we have these predefined locations, and there we can basically tell, okay, my app should show up at this location. For example, here we're using the sidebar location. So we need to tell beforehand in the app definition that we are creating right now where our app is going to show up.
Okay. Yeah, so that makes sense. So these are places in the Contentful, web app, I think we usually call it, and it's like we can start to modify them.
Yeah.
So let's see. Scroll down here. Okay, so here it's saying that we need to do two things. We need to do an entry sidebar location, and we also want to do an app configuration screen location, which we'll be using at a later stage. All right, so an entry sidebar location and an app configuration screen location. So I'm going to check these two boxes in my app definition here. And let's see, then it says, click on create app when you're done filling in the details. Let me do that. Okay, it looks like the app was created, or the app definition was created.
The app definition was created, exactly.
Okay, so this is like the blueprint, and now I can expect this app to start, having functionality at some time. All right.
Exactly. So basically, we told Contentful now, okay, we want to create an app at this location, and our app lives under this URL. In our case, right now, it's only localhost 3000.
Okay. So it says here, so we're going to want to go back to our app listing page. So what that means is back in the space that I want to do development in. I will go up to the top bar here. I'm going to click Manage Apps. There are those two beautiful new apps that we won't talk about, but that's going to be on the LinkedIn live stream a little bit later. So again, we'll link to that at the end of this. Okay, so down in the app location here, in the app marketplace, I'm looking for blog post metrics. There it is. So it's showing up here as available apps to be installed. So let's click that. Okay, it's asking me to authorize. I think I'm a trusted source.
It's safe. It's safe.
It's safe. Okay, I just closed some developer muscle memory. I'm closing like developer warnings and things like that, but that's fine. Okay, so this is the app configuration screen. Welcome to your Contentful app. This is your config page. Thank you very much.
Exactly. I think this is especially an important step when you build a tutorial. So what we're seeing right now here looks like we are still using the Contentful web app, but this app config screen we are seeing right now is coming already from our app. So this is already rendered from our app. So it's not even Contentful anymore. So right now what we are doing here is, as you mentioned, we are loading the iframe that is provided by our app right into the Contentful web app and showing it already here in the app.
Okay, so let's just pause and actually take a look at that. So I'm going to open Visual Studio Code here. So this is the directory that was built using that create Contentful CLI tool, that command I ran to begin with. So it's created this structure here. It's in TypeScript. If you're not really comfortable with TypeScript, you can just change all the files to be JavaScript instead. That's no problem. But like if I look here under the source directory, I see that it's already built out some stuff. And if I go into components, I see there's a config screen component here. So let me click that. And you're saying that this component here is what's actually being rendered inside of Contentful.
Exactly.
So it looks like there's a lot of code here. I know the configuration screen has a lot of functionality, so there's a bit of stuff going on in it. And one thing I noted, which we'll probably need to fix in a little bug fix, is Contentful, this C should be capitalized, right?
Classic typo, yeah.
Classic typo. So let's just fix that in our current app. So if I make this a capital C and I hit save and I go back, oh, I don't know if you caught that, but it did a hot reload. So now we've got a capital C. So this is definitely our code running. And just to kind of drive that home, if I do a hello world instead, right? Does this change? It does. Okay.
Yeah, I see. This was also very important for us to have this great developer experience, that you also have this hot reloading, that you're also familiar with, that you get like these instant refreshes when you change your code and you immediately see your code in action. So
yeah, I mean, that's really cool. I mean, when I'm not doing a stream and I've got like the big monitor up, I just do side by side with the code, and it's great. You can just like code live and watch your changes happen. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just put this back. I don't want to do too much changes yet. Let's keep following the tutorial here. Okay. So we have gone through this modal. We are currently on this page, and it's saying just hit the install button. So I'm going to hit that install button.
I think we also got a question here that some people wanted to see the source code in the DOM. Maybe we can take a little look at the DOM.
Sure. So this is to your this is to what we were talking about before. If
exactly.
let me see if I can make this a little bit. So I'm highlighting here the iframe. This is a little small. Hopefully, maybe I can bump it up here. So I've got in the DOM the iframe, and you can see this is coming from localhost 3000 here. And inside of the DOM, there's my single page application that's running. And I've got all of my code in here. This is, again, just a React application inside of that iframe. So yeah, did that answer that question? I think it was just asking to check out what this looks like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool. So yeah, it's pretty much just an iframe single page application in here. That's what I've got going on. So yeah, I've just installed the app. It's installed now. What next? Congrats. Your app is now installed to your current space and environment. Well, that's great. So we need to do some configuring of the app, huh? The configuration screen is rendered by the config screen component. So we already kind of played around with this. We messed around. It's saying like you can change the name to the blog post metrics config. You can make things, do things differently. I'm going to skip that. We've already seen the hot reloading. I think that's just what you're kind of getting at there, I believe, right? There's no functionality that we really need.
No, for this tutorial, there's no functionality in the config screen right now.
Okay, great. So I'm going to just skip that for now and assign your app to a content type. Okay, so I think this is where it starts to actually get kind of interesting, where the app starts to show up in the web app, and we can start to play around and see it and actually use it and get some use out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So this basically refers to the locations we defined in the app definition that we created earlier. So what we're doing now is we're assigning our app to our content type blog post that we created earlier to use the sidebar.
Okay, so if I go back into my content model here, I go to my blog post content type, and we're going to the sidebar here for this content type. And I see that there's some available items. Let me get rid of this, get rid of some of these warning messages. So blog post metrics is the app we just created. I'll add that to the sidebar. And just like I see in the GIF, I'm going to put that down to the second thing. And as this is just the ordering of the sidebar. So this is how the apps will show up in order. And I'll hit save. Okay, so that's done. Back to the tutorial. So that's all saved. And now it's saying we can see our app in action. It shows up in the sidebar there. So let's check that out. So if I go back here, let's go to an untitled blog post. And yeah, there's our hello sidebar component.
There we go.
Okay, so I'm guessing we're getting close to being able to do something interesting, right? Because I see some code coming up.
Exactly. And also, maybe also worth mentioning here, we also don't lose the hot reloading capabilities. So any changes you make directly in the sidebar component also reflects on the web app immediately.
Okay, so you're saying like every location will have this hot reloading stuff. It
Yeah.
all kind of works the same.
Exactly.
Nice, nice. So it looks like it's the same deal here. We can modify the sidebar code and then we can get it to hot reload. So that's really cool. Let's go on. I think we understand that, and let's go on and actually look at building some custom functionality now. So this is getting into the part where Contentful didn't offer this functionality out of the box. Let's add in some reading time code to make it so our editors can see how long the reading time is on the thing they're writing. So it looks like you're advocating for using a library called reading time, and it's a quick npm install, it looks like.
Yeah, it's a quick npm install. It's a small library. I mean, it's just for the brief of simplicity that we used here, reading time library. I mean, obviously we can also implement the functionality ourselves, but I think this gives us the easiest step to get some easy results. And we all know we love installing libraries that makes our life easier. So we decided to use the reading time library.
Okay, that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is go back to my terminal. I will Control-C this just to stop the process. I will install reading time. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. And while that's installing, let's just kind of do a quick look ahead to see what we've got coming up. So it looks like we're going to be using the SDK to grab some content inside of the field. And what we're going to do with that content, I assume, is put it into this reading time library, right? So we're going to get like however many sentences are in our long text field, and then reading time is going to figure out how long an average reader would take to read that, I assume.
Exactly. Yeah. That's
cool.
Exactly what we're doing here.
All right. So why don't I do the thing that developers love doing and just copy and paste this code?
The good old Stack Overflow mentality.
This is like 90% of the job. So back in the tree here, it's saying let's go to the sidebar location. And in the sidebar location, let's update what we've got here with the code that was in the tutorial. And let's just walk through this and kind of see what's going on here.
Yeah, I think this is an important step we're doing right now, and we can talk through it step by step here. Yeah.
Okay, so first things first, all this stuff at the top kind of came out of the box with Create Contentful App, so nothing really changed here. I'll point out that we did import use state, so that's new. People that aren't familiar with React, this is just kind of like a life cycle thing where it's like when the component renders on the page, it then kicks off some additional functionality. It's it's kind of like this document ready if you're coming from a more vanilla sense. And let's see, what else did we add? So content field ID, it looks like we've got some kind of constant variable here. Oh, this was the ID of the field that we created, the body field.
Exactly. This is important that we refer to the ID we created earlier on our content model, in our content type, that we're using the correct ID here to reference our field that actually holds the content. So if we would use the wrong ID, obviously we are not able to get the content of the field when we were using another ID.
Okay.
So this is actually super important here, that we use the correct ID here, which we called body earlier in the content model.
I think for people that aren't super familiar, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a debugger in here just so we can live step through what some of like the hydrated data looks like. Because down here I'm seeing, so here's where our React component actually starts, our sidebar React component. And we're grabbing the SDK from props. So this was passed in automatically. And this is that app SDK.
This is the app SDK we see here. We also provide typings for all of the SDK locations. So if you scroll up, for example, you see we have the sidebar extension SDK here. So we provide types for every location, so to say. So we provide a better developer experience for users.
Okay, so like for example,
basically,
if I was to like redo this right here, this line, if I was to say like SDK dot, what was it? Fields?
Exactly.
I've already forgotten what I've deleted. Hold on. Let's undo that. So SDK entry fields. So SDK entry. So it's auto correcting, and it even has, you can see like it's popping up with some stuff. Fields, right? And on fields, we wanted to grab that content field ID.
Field ID,
right?
Exactly.
And that's, if you were, I guess if you're just doing this on the fly, it would just be .body basically. Right. So that's what this is. It's the body field. And okay, let's see what else have we got. So we've got that use state. Oh, sorry, use state. I was thinking of use effect when I was talking before, but use state is just it's holding some of our state. So what's actually going on here? So the content field, it looks like the content field here. So when we call the SDK, it's actually returning kind of a complex object, right? The content field is actually going to be an entry field API. So it's actually an object that corresponds to the field inside of Contentful. So just to illustrate what that means, when I'm in Contentful, this long text body field, that's the field that we're talking about. So if there's data in it, this is some text, right? There's some data in this field, then it looks like what I can do is in the actual content field itself, there's a method here I can call get value, and it says it gets the current value of the field. So I expect when I make this call, I would expect that I would get that sentence that I just wrote in the long text field.
Exactly. You would basically get the string back saying what you wrote before on the field. Yeah.
Okay. And so just to kind of clarify that, right now we've got this hello sidebar component, which is saying hello sidebar component. So like if I change in here, and I make it the variable of blog post text, I should assume,
hopefully,
that something will happen, right?
maybe give it a refresh.
Yeah, let me refresh. Oh, that's why it didn't hot reload, right? We had just done the npm install reading time, and
the app is not running anymore.
Right,
exactly.
So I need to restart the app. Okay, so that makes total sense. So I think that's something to call out, right? If you see this, if you see any error messages like this, maybe make sure your app is actually running. So yeah, that definitely makes sense, and I think it's normal to see this kind of an error message if you've stopped your app. Or if there's if there's a connection problem, you're definitely going to get this kind of an error, which makes a lot of sense to me. So let's see, it's compiling, and I assume it's going to start running any second now.
I think it should already
be good to go.
Already be running. Yeah.
All right, let me refresh again just to get everything up to date. Cool. This is some text. So yeah, it's basically copying what I say here and putting it into the sidebar.
Yep.
So not super useful right now, but just to kind of illustrate that this is how you grab data from one field and maybe put it somewhere else.
Well,
so let me undo that.
But basically, we are free to use the data however we want. Yeah.
Right, which is what we're going to do. I assume in a second.
Exactly.
We're going to pass that blog post text. We're going to pass this variable into that reading time thing, but let's follow the tutorial and see how to do that. So after I've copy and pasted your beautiful code here, let's see, if we want to calculate our metrics as soon as somebody starts writing content, we need to do all this stuff. So there's an on-change listener that's going to listen for on-change of the value, right? Sounds like. And we're also going to be importing some things from Forma 36. So we're going to be using list item, and note. So again, let me do a little bit of copy and pasting here just to save some time. So it looks like we will indeed. So these two things are going to change here. And let's just talk about what that means. So if I paste these in, we've got now the use effect, which was that lifecycle thing I was talking about. And we've also got list item, and note. And these are Forma 36 components. They're going to be components that we use in React. They're already styled. They're already functionally complete for the most part. If you find any bugs, put in a ticket, we'll fix it, and then you'll get the fix for free. That's actually the beauty of using these things, right? It's like we use it in the main app. So if you're using them and if there's bugs or if there's new feature improvements, you just keep updating to the latest version and you like get all that stuff for free. You don't have to worry about fixing all of this stuff yourself, which is really cool. Okay, so it also looks like we should install or we should import reading time, right? This is something that we just put in.
Just, yeah. And I think now you also see the beauty of TypeScript if you scroll down. I think you deleted the import for the paragraph components, and now we see exactly cannot find paragraph.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna change this.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay. So let's take a look. Okay, so it looks like quite a lot of stuff is happening. So what I'm going to do is let me just copy and paste this whole thing in.
Yeah.
And we can talk about what the changes are here. Okay, so quite a few changes. So again, we imported some new functionality from React. We imported some Forma 36 components. We imported that reading time module. We still got the content field as body, so that stayed the same. We're still pulling the entry field. We're still setting that blog post text. And then now it looks like there's some new stuff going on. So what's the new stuff?
Exactly. So here, basically, as you mentioned, we're using the use effect because obviously, we want to use a lifecycle method. And we also, in the use effect, we now use the on value changed. As you mentioned already, this is a function that calls basically our set block text value every time we change the value of the field.
Okay.
So this gives us basically this real-time feel of the app. So as soon as a user will type something in the body field, we will update the block text and use the new value of the text to calculate the reading time.
Okay, so basically this is a function that takes a callback, which is this right here. Yeah. This is the callback, and
exactly.
Value is going to be whatever I'm typing into the blog text.
Exactly.
Okay. And the reason we're setting that in state is because we want this component to hold on to like a reference to that blog text. And it looks like, spoiler alert, it looks like we're passing that into reading time, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. And then also there's something going on here. So this on value changed, it looks like is actually returning some kind of a function, which you've called detach.
Yeah.
And use effect is returning this detach function.
Yeah, this is kind of a cleanup step. I mean, if you know about memory leaks, so what on value change is returning, it's returning a function, and we're having this on value change listener. And when we're done using this basically on value change listener, I want to clean it up and remove this listener because we don't want to have like 1,000 listeners opening in our tab every time we open the entry. And so the last step we're doing in this use effect step is basically clean up this on value change listener and basically detach it.
Gotcha. Okay, so when we don't need on value changed anymore, it's like stop running this on value changed function when like the app gets unloaded or something like this.
Exactly.
All right, cool. And that's just for a front end thing. You don't have to worry about like this is not going to affect. You're not going to spin up a bunch of stuff. This is just like in the front end. Okay. Calculate the metrics based on the new value. I don't think it can be any clearer than that. So reading time looks like it's a function that takes text, which is a string, and also a bunch of options, which we're going to totally ignore because I guess we don't care about those options, which is fine. So what you're saying is blog text is going to be coming from that long text field, and reading time is going to produce for us in read time results.
Yeah.
So read time results, it looks like has words, which is the number of words, and reading time is going to be text. And I assume if I wanted to really dive into this, I could see like what all these things kind of are and what they mean, maybe, right?
I mean, the library also provides like TypeScript definitions, so we can jump into the definitions and basically see what reading time is returning or giving us. Yeah.
Gotcha. And it looks here like you actually there's not much code in the render method here. That's kind of crazy. So there's really not much going on here, which is you've got a note component, right? And let me actually just quickly plug the storybook stuff here. So this is the Forma 36 storybook. And again, if you're not familiar with Storybook, that's okay. I think it's going to be pretty clear what this thing does. So I can go here on the sidebar here, and I can look for that note component, and I can see that it's just telling me like what all the props do. And I can change the props, and it shows me like what that component would look like. So this is like just a cool playground. And again, this is public as well. So you can access it at f36.contentful.com, and there's links to this storybook. And it looks like I can just preview what these things do. So when I'm in the code, I can see that you've got a note, and it's going to have, so there's some text in the note, and then there's a list. So what is a list? If I go back to my storybook here and I look for list, okay, well, that's what I expected.
It's a basic list, yeah.
It's a basic list. And what you're saying is in the list, you want to have a word count and a reading time. And I'm pretty much thinking that since I've already saved this file, if I'm to just go back into Contentful here, yeah, okay, so I've already got an app working. So this is an app. And I think one thing to note is like when we say app, a lot of people think like, complex functionality, multiple integrations, things like that. But an app really can be just this simple.
Yeah, it can be just one component, one file, and could also provide a lot of value, as we see here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so you were saying this on value changed. This works like in real time, basically.
Yeah.
So if I say this is some more text, you can see in the sidebar it's updating.
Increasing the word count, yeah.
It's increasing the word count. And if let's just get a little lazy here and start going like this.
Probably you have to get a little more. Then we should also.
Yeah, so it's increasing the word count. That's not bad. Reading time seems to be about a minute though. So I think you probably need a couple paragraphs for it to be.
Yeah, I think we need some paragraphs to get that value up. Yeah.
So can I cheat the system here? Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. So yeah, this is working pretty much as expected, and we've pretty much got an app going on. Let's take a look at the tutorial. Is there more to it than that? No.
Basically, in the last step, we talk about the deployment. As you mentioned, this is just a single page app as we know it. And we also provide tooling around deploying or building the app. So if you would now run npm run build, we will also get like a static app that we can host on basically our provider of choice. Let it be, I don't know, Netlify, Vercel, AWS, you name it.
Right. So just some static single page application.
Exactly.
And it's going to run in an iframe.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's talk about like the dev experience. I know we said that we might want to add some functionality to it. I think we can get to that, but I just want to quickly show, if you're having problems, there's a couple ways that you can, debug your logic and kind of try and figure out what's going on. And I've done this before live on stream, but for example, if you're not quite sure what these things are doing, you can actually just as easily go, I'm going to add a debugger in here. So I'm going to write a debugger statement. And back in Contentful, let me get rid of some of this stuff so it's not as large. So nothing's happening with that debugger statement, but let's say I open the console. I'm going to open the developer console here, and I'm going to make an on change. Okay, so you can see that something just happened. So you can see it's, first of all, the iframe that we're in got kind of grayed out there in Chrome. And over here, my debugger statement actually hit. So let me open this up. So people that are familiar using the debugger tools, it's actually really powerful here. What I've got is I'm stopped in the code, and if I hover over stuff, I can actually see like what all these values are. I can see like what we've got going on here. So it looks like, and this is the Contentful field, right? This is the thing that we've got back. So you can see actually, what is actually in here, what it's got going on. And if I open the proto, you can see there's a bunch of different methods. Again, TypeScript does a good job of, I guess, defining those. But yeah, so we can see actually this is the value of that field that we grabbed. So that is what that value is, and that's kind of our way of understanding that. let's say, let me put another debugger just inline in Chrome, and I will go here because I want to see what reading time is returning. So reading time returned to stats, and it looks like there's actually a few things here, right? So if we wanted to add or modify, like let's say we wanted to do percentage or something like this, it looks like it gives us seconds, it gives us text, it gives us minutes, right? So it's like we can actually use these values in a way that we see fit. I mean, for our purposes, like, what do you think? Like, should we actually modify the long text field and use reading time to add some metadata to the response? I'm actually thinking like the easier approach, I was thinking about this earlier. It's like, do we want to make the body field have like a more complicated data structure, or should we just add, like what we could do is we could reutilize this reading time thing, and we could add like maybe a JSON metadata field to this content type. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. Yeah. Let's give it a try.
Yeah, let's quickly do that. So if I go back into the content model and I go to my blog post, and let's add a new field. We'll call it a JSON object. We'll do reading time. This will be a reading time field. And I'm going to create and configure because just like I did with the body, if I go to appearance, we want our app to show up here. So this is a new location, right? This is the field location.
Yeah. So basically, what we need to do there is modify our app definition.
Our app definition. Okay, so let me save this for now. So we will have a reading time JSON object, but it's not corresponding to our app just yet.
No.
So let me go back into my organization settings, and I'm going to go back to my blog post metrics app definition here.
Yep.
And let's see, I want to add it to the entry field because I want it to attach to a JSON field. So I can see if I click entry field, it gives me all these options. I'm going to hit JSON field here. And let's see, I think that's it.
That's it, yeah.
So I'll hit save.
The trick.
Okay, it's warning me, I'm messing with an app definition. So something to call out here, right, is if you've got an app that's live in production and you're messing with these values, you could break your app, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to make sure we know what we're doing here. Okay, so I've created an app definition. I have modified an app definition. And let's see, how does that work? If I go back to my space, and if I go back to my content model and back to the blog post entry, and if I go to the settings of the reading time JSON object, over in the appearance tab, it's showing up now.
Yeah.
So it's showing up, and I will use that as the appearance. I will hit save. And let's see what kind of damage I've done.
Hopefully nothing yet.
Hopefully nothing. Okay. The selected widget cannot be used with this field. Please select a valid widget in the content model selection.
That's interesting.
That is interesting. Let's take a look and see what's going on here. Let me get rid of my debugger. And let me also open up the file browser here. And let's see. So we added a field location, right? Here's the field location. And I've got React. I've got a paragraph. It's a hello entry field component.
It should display the paragraph component.
It should display the paragraph, although it's a JSON field, so maybe it's expecting valid JSON or something like this. That would be my guess, potentially. Let's do a debugger. Let's see if it actually is running, or maybe we do have something going wrong here. So let's put a debugger in. And I'm going to refresh the page just to make sure everything's up to date. Okay, so it is showing that field. Something must have just gone a little,
okay.
I probably just needed to reload or something. So hello entry field component is showing. Now the underlying field is a JSON field, right? So how do we look at what that value is?
So basically,
so I should probably do what we did in our other component, right? Is probably use state, probably need use effect or something like this. And let's see. So when the component loads, so I'll do say use effect. So what this is doing is when the component loads, let's put the debugger in, right? And actually, let's do what we did on the other one, which is field is going to equal props.sdk.field, right? So this is the field that we're working with here. Gives you access to the value and metadata of the field. And what do I want to do? Okay, TypeScript is telling me I can do a get value. So let's do a get value.
Sounds good.
And I'm putting a debugger there, so we're not doing anything with that value. We're just hoping that debugger hits and I can see what the value of the field is. So let's go back to the code. I will open my developer tools. And let's refresh the page to get that debugger to hit. Okay.
And we see, bam. Yeah.
Undefined.
Undefined.
So I think, this is a JSON field, right? So when our component loads, let's set this information to being JSON.
Yep.
So let's say if the field is undefined, right? Let's do props.sdk.field.set value be this blank object. I might have to do JSON stringify, right?
Probably JSON.stringify should do. I mean, we can give it a try. I mean, hit save and see what happens.
Okay, I'll hit save.
So we have the full developer experience.
So I will hit save. I'm still in my debugger here. Okay, so the code updated and my debugger is kind of in a new spot. The field, of course, is going to be undefined, but let me run through the debugger. So nothing happened here, but what I will do is in the render, right? So in this paragraph tag, let's render a variable. And that variable, I will stringify the props.sdk.field.getValue.
Yeah.
I think we'll probably have to follow your tutorial. So I see that the value is an empty object. That makes sense to me. And so what do we want to do? Let's take that logic from the sidebar, right? Which is we want to get the value of the blog post text. So I'm literally going to, I'm going to copy and paste like all of this stuff here. So let's actually copy and paste all of this stuff. Go into the field location and let's paste it in here. So I'm grabbing the SDK. I'm grabbing that blog field. Let's do this. Okay, so I'm grabbing that blog text field, and then in the use effect, I'm just going to copy and paste all of this really, because it's pretty much the same stuff. So I will copy this, and in the field location, let's get rid of our use effect debugger thingy. Actually, no, let's keep that real quick, and I will paste in our other code. So we've got the blog post text, we've got the stats. So let's in here JSON stringify stats. So this is our reading time stats, and it's yelling at me. I need to import this as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I've done everything by the book here.
Hopefully we should see something now.
Aha.
Yeah. Aha.
Reading time is not. Let me refresh. I think there's probably some stuff going on here. Make this a little smaller.
So I think now we did a lot of changes. And remember, people, you can ask questions anytime. So if we are too fast, too slow, feel free to throw a question in the chat, and hopefully we can answer something. Yeah. And I think this is maybe an important step. So maybe we can do a small recap. What we did so far, right?
Yeah. So it looks like, so what we've done, if you think about it, both of these, the sidebar location here and this entry field location is using the same exact data. It's using the same exact logic. We've basically copy and pasted. But I think what's useful, the sidebar is not something that comes along in the API response, right? The sidebar here is really for like the editorial experience, people using the Contentful web app. But the fields are a bit different. The fields, like this, will come along in the API response. And And this could be good because you can imagine if this really is a blog post, right? If this is a blog post, if I'm using Contentful to create a blog, then this comes in the API response, which means I can use this data to actually build my blog website, for example.
Yeah, you can directly embed it on your website and see, okay, this blog post will have a reading time of approximately 10 minutes, 50 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. So this is kind of this medium style. Maybe you know it if you open a blog post and then you see like immediately the reading time. So we can reuse the data and our API response.
That's really cool. So it looks like what I would need to do is, I think there's one thing missing, which is to get this data into the API itself. I think what I'll want to do is actually set the value, right? We need to do something like this, which is like set value, right?
Yeah.
So here, not only do we want to set the blog post, and in fact, yeah, what I'll do is I'll say, so SDK dot field dot set value. I want the value to be this here.
Exactly.
The stats. So I'm going to actually move this code up here, right? And I want the value to be the stats. And one thing that I think is going to be a little bit weird, right, is I also want to set my blog post to be stats here. So that also should be my stats option, because we will use that here. So this is going to now be blog post text, right? Did I not spell that right?
Was it blog post text?
It's just blog text. Blog text. Okay. Yeah. And one last thing that I think I'm going to catch before it even gets started, because I have a little bit of experience, is this on value changed is going to get called when I call set value, right?
Yeah.
So my guess is what we'll want to do is just ensure that we only run this logic when the value really does change.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say if, and I'm going to do a little hack here, if JSON.stringify value equals what? Should I stringify this right here?
Yeah.
So I'll say, like, if the current value of the field looks to be pretty much the same as what, you know, this reading time thing is going to produce. So if they're the same, I'll just return early, kind of short circuit that logic and not allow for any more like looping of updating. Like, I don't want to keep setting the value, which is the same value, which sets the value, but I don't want to loop there.
Okay, so yeah. So let's give it a try.
Yeah, so let's take a look here and let's see. Let me refresh. Okay, so reading time has got all of this stuff going on.
Can we do some changes?
Yeah, let's just put this down to an easier amount. So we know that this is going to be 4 words, and the reading time is going to be 1 minute. So what I don't see is I don't see this getting changed right here, and I think actually, yeah, what we need to do, right? We're looking at the content field of the value changed.
If the value equals the JSON stringify stats.
Yeah, this logic right here probably is somehow messed up, right? Let's do a debugger. I think we're almost there.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there.
So let's see. So the value that came in is this. Oh, this is.
We are comparing the value with the stats, right? They will never be.
Right.
They will never be equal, right?
They will never be equal. But what we can say is old stats, right? We'll do old stats equals reading time. Reading time. Well, this is going to be this.
Yeah.
That's actually probably our bug, right?
Yeah.
So the new stats should be the incoming value.
Yeah. And the old stats should be the value we had before.
Right. And so this actually needs to be SDK.field. Or sorry, this needs to be, we save this as blog
text.
So if the blog text stats equals the new stats that came in, don't do anything, nothing has really changed. So let's end that debugger and run through the debugger. Okay, so now it looks like it's updating and just, this is some more text. Okay, so
And
now it's updating correctly.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think just to drive that home, let's now make an API call to Contentful and see how this metadata actually comes in on the call, right? So I'm going to call this space here, and I'm going to call this entry here. So I've set up actually already a quick postman thing. So I've got the same space and I've got the same entry. I put in my access token, and let's see if I make that call. Here's the data that we get back. So we see that there's, oh, whoops, that doesn't look to be the right entry. Let's make sure I've got the right entry here. So I'll grab this entry ID, and it's going to be this entry ID here.
Yeah.
So if I make the API call, not found. Maybe I've got the wrong everything.
Wrong space.
So let me make sure I've got everything correct here. So the space ID is this. The environment is going to be master. And the entry ID, right? Shouldn't this be, oh, you know what? I need to publish this. It's in draft mode.
Makes sense. If we want to query it, we should also publish it beforehand. Yeah.
Right. So I'll publish it, and then I'll just make sure, again, this ID makes sense. And let's fire off that API call. Boom. So what have we got? We've got a fields. So we've got our body field. This is some more text. And look at that. There's our reading time. So this is the app populating a custom field inside of Contentful there.
And I think this is a super powerful feature. If we can tweak API responses automatically without populating any fields by hand, this can be a very, very powerful feature to extend certain entries by, for example, here now the metadata.
Right, for sure. Because you can imagine, Contentful doesn't come with this reading time functionality. You could build it in the UI, but it would be very manual, right? You'd have to build like a reading time JSON object. You'd have to have someone like analyze. It'd all be a very, manual process. So this automates that highly, basically. Cool. So, I mean, I think that kind of concludes the tutorial. We did go a little bit above and beyond here with the tutorial, but I think that really outlines how you can kind of take even the tutorial code. We literally just mostly copy and pasted your tutorial code to get the sidebar. I mean, I just copy and pasted that, but even to get that new functionality into the field here, I copy and pasted your logic again, and then I wrote an if statement pretty much. So yeah, this kind of stuff, again, it depends on the complexity of your app. Obviously, there's apps that are highly complex and they span multiple locations, and we're going to have tutorials and demos on that in the future. And
but I mean, this tutorial is more of an introduction side. So we're using here we're using now 2 locations, but the initial tutorial is using only 1 location. So to keep it simple for the first app you're going to build.
Right.
Obviously,
I think it's well done. Like kudos out, Felix. I think that was pretty easy for me to follow. I mean, of course you're there telling me about it, so maybe I'm a little biased. But yeah, that was really cool. I think we're going to wrap up here. I just want to do another shout out. So again, if you're interested in doing that, checking out these new features, Launch and Compose Live, head over to these links. I think they're going to start streaming live, or they might have already started streaming live. And again, if you're interested in any kind of developer documentation, we've got contentful.com/developers. And if you want to talk with the community and share ideas or ask questions, go to contentful.com/Slack and sign up. I've got an account on there. I'm pretty active. I actually talk with people and we work through some problems. So if anything you saw today or in any previous live streams you have questions on, feel free to ask me directly. I'm always happy to help there.
And we also got another question by Julian. So the question is, any future plans of doing a more advanced app framework tutorial, for example, creating an entry editor app or page app? and consuming Netlify field editors or Contentful build in editors. So maybe to answer this, definitely we have some more advanced tutorials on the horizon. And we're going to keep iterating on these tutorials. So that's actually great that you bring this up. So we're definitely going to plan on adding more complex cases, as we already talked. You're mentioning different locations here for the entry editor tab or page app. So these will be locations that are a little bit more complex, but obviously will also have more powerful use cases. So yeah, keep an eye up on the documentation. So we're constantly adding new features, rewriting documentation, and we're definitely planning on creating more advanced tutorials. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, so the apps on our marketplace, not all of them, but most of them are actually in an open source GitHub repo. So Contentful, github.com/contentful/apps. And if you go into the apps repository, you can see the ones that are on our marketplace. So you can actually dive into the code, and some of these apps are actually pretty complicated. So if you want to build a feature that is similar to any of these apps, feel free to go into this code and check it out. It's all open source. So it's definitely some good learning material in there. And again, if there's any questions or anything like that, you can join the Slack community, and we're definitely happy to help clarify things in that regard.
And I think we got another question by Giannis. Is there any way to increase the height of the custom field?
Yeah, that one we can answer quite quickly. So
Yeah.
if you're in the field location itself, usually what we like to do, actually what we recommend, is on the initial loading of the application in React, that's use effect, or if you've got like a document ready thing going on. I'm not sure what it is in Vue and Angular, but I'm sure there's similar concepts. What you can do is you can access the SDK, and we've got a special location, not a location, but we've got a special property on the SDK called window. Mm-hmm. And on window, there's either the auto resizer, which understands that if more content or less content is showing up in your app programmatically, it will automatically resize that iframe. But you can also update the height manually. So we do have a function where you can pass in a value. So I think that should hopefully solve that problem. Yeah, that's definitely possible for sure. Cool. So yeah, I don't know if we have any more questions. It looks like that might be it for now.
Yeah, let me check the comments. Julian comment again, the Markdown editor would be a good example since it has some complexities when consumed inside entry editor app. I think we already got a blog post talking about the Markdown editor, if I'm not mistaken. I think we have an example there, how to extend the Markdown editor actually. So Julian, if you take a look at the blog post, I think we've got some content there for you.
Yeah, I know. And the rich text editor and the Markdown editor, they're definitely a little bit more advanced just because they use specific data structures. But actually, I did a stream a couple weeks ago where we created a custom rich text editor, which included metadata with assets. So if you're interested, that was like a 3-part, or was it a 2-part stream? And so it's a little in depth. There's quite a lot of talking going on because it is more complicated concept. But we do finally manage to create this custom Markdown editor, or sorry, it was a rich text editor. We created this custom rich text editor that contained links to like embedded assets. So it was really cool. If you're interested in seeing how to customize those features, definitely head over there and check that out. I think you can find these live streams on Twitch and on YouTube. So that's where those are. And again, if you have any questions, just reach out to me on Slack. I'll try to point you in the right direction, hopefully. So yeah, I think that's it for today. Again, just to recap, we went through this brand new, beautiful app tutorial that you've built for the app framework. So again, really in depth, and I appreciate it. It's definitely helps a lot. I think it helps understand like what's going on and grasp some basic concepts. And yes, the app framework does have some more advanced features. So hopefully we'll have some more content around that in the future. But yeah, Felix, thanks for jumping on with me today. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me, David.
Cool. Well, with that, I think we'll sign off.
Yeah.